I want to discuss healing from trauma. Now, over the years of dealing with my trauma, I realized there are two styles or two ways to deal with trauma, a very passive way and a very active way. Now, the first time you speak out and start dealing with all of the trauma is a very active way. But over time, I realized once I started speaking out and then finding my psychologists, counselors, etc. to help deal with the trauma, I started just talking. And it was me telling my story over and over and over again, a million different ways, a million different times. And it's a story I already knew to people that didn't know, and it didn't have any merit anymore. And so I started to go, look, there's no need for me to use this passive way of healing. It wasn't actually healing. It was me just noisy in my head, and it actually made me feel worse. It made me come out angry, and I didn't get any actionable method or actionable thing coming out of the actual scenario. Now, all my life I've exercised. I've always trained, and I always felt that training just made me feel better. So I trained a lot, and that became a way to deal with me and my problems. Now, I didn't understand at the time, and over the years of developing methods of training that help people through mental health issues, I realized there was a direct correlation. I just didn't understand how. Eventually, when I found my mentors a few years back, we started to delve into human movement and its effect on the entire human, not just the physical state, but the mental state. So I give all due credit to my Strong Fit tribe, Julian and Richard, who opened up the world that I was already in and helping people through movement for their mental health, but actually having a direct understanding about it. So now when we talk about trauma, we talk about an experience that happened that either physically or emotionally, psychologically created a direct impact to the body that feels of a negative tone to you. Now, it sets up for patterns, it sets up for a way of thinking, a way of acting moving forward. Now, again, there are only experiences that you have dealt with. Now, some of them are very dark experiences, but again, nonetheless, an experience that you've dealt with to move and take sometimes a lesson from, and some have no lessons to be taught. So every time I was there in a counseling session discussing the trauma, all I was doing was resurfacing a story I already knew. Deep down inside, I knew everything. I knew all the aspects. And I felt like I had to reconfirm this with someone else. But every time I trained, I felt like I got the ability to express it, to move past it. So what I realized and what we learn over time is that training, not only training the muscles and the body and the physical component, but actually trained my mind. So for example, in a workout, say I'm pushing a sled and I have to push this sled a certain distance and I have to work super hard. There's a point in that workout where the heart rate elevates, the hands get sweaty, the body is starting to question itself. And in that moment of questioning, you have a choice to go, I feel like I'm going to vomit, or I feel sick, or I feel like I don't want to do this anymore. And this is a judge of character here. You get to go through that. You get to push and you get to keep moving forward, or you get to stop. Again, there's no gun to your head. You get to choose. You're always in control. But if you do choose to keep moving forward, you've set up a pattern. You've set up a pattern, an ability to deal with the stressor that is confronting you, that is challenging you, that is making it hard for you. And instead of repressing it, disconnecting from it, shutting off, like we've discussed previously, we dealt with it. We moved forward. So we actioned it. I didn't sit there and stay there on the sled talking in my head for 5 minutes. It was a split second of like, shit, do I do this or do I stop, or why am I doing this? I questioned my life in that moment. And in that split second, I choose to keep going. And then when you do and you move past it, you feel better for it. Now, if you choose not to and you back off, you'll feel choked up, like you still want to vomit. There's this aspect of like, okay, I know I didn't. And as much as you want to fake it and say, yeah, no, I went as hard as I could, you deep down know in your own self that you didn't. Now, the reason why this is great is because you can identify through movement those sticking points, those challenging points, those confronting uncomfortable places, and choose to act on them physically. Move your legs, move your arms, move your breathing past it. So then when you come to that point in your life where you're dealing with that trauma in that mental aspect, and it makes you feel like your heart rate's elevating, like you're all sweaty and clammy, like you're choked up, like you want to vomit, the same response the body has on a nervous system level, You get to either repress it, suppress it, dissociate, disconnect, or go, hey, that's the bear right now and it's chasing me. I get to turn around and run towards it, or I can run away from it. But if I run towards it, I move past it and I learn something from it. So the further and further in my years of exercise and training, and the better I got at dealing with chasing the bear, so to speak, the better I got at dealing with the trauma. So they worked hand in hand. Because again, the body, the human is not segregated into different pieces. We are one unit piece. So if I'm working on the physical and I get better at the physical, in turn, the mental and the psychological gets better. The nervous system gets better and we start building this whole human. But if I'm only working at one side and really trying on a passive aspect to develop and grow, I will get to a degree better, but I haven't worked on the whole entire being. So now, it doesn't have to be the craziest of exercise, but you are going to have to do any modality of exercise that is going to start to challenge the system, that is going to ask you to question yourself in that moment. That moment isn't fun, but the outcome is you feel better, you grow, you learn. Now, how would you go about this? I would absolutely recommend finding a mentor, a coach, someone that has experience in this realm. Now, if you're just starting out, just exercising itself is amazing. Modalities like your fighting sports, like CrossFit, like powerlifting, your strength sports are amazing because they have components where you actually have to fight, where you have to go to that point that's uncomfortable and you learn about yourself in that moment. But then when you want to truly deal with that trauma, you're going to be confronted with feelings within exercise you're overwhelmed with and you don't even know what that is. That's you dealing with trauma. That's you dealing with an uncomfortable situation. It doesn't have to have a direct feel or memory that you're dealing with in that moment. It's not to say that like, okay, I was abused and that sled is me being abused and that's why I got better. No, it's my human physical being is dealing with that situation, that physical situation right now, and I'm going to grow and become stronger for it. And then in that moment, I get confronted with this shit, I don't want to keep going because my legs are hurting, my arms are hurting, I'm out of breath, I feel like I'm going to vomit. And then you choose to move past it. And in that moment, you learn a skill that you can take to all aspects of life. It's a principle that you can apply so that when I'm dealt with or facing a crisis with my trauma, with my mental health, I'm sitting there going, I feel sick, I feel nauseous, I don't want to talk about this, I have a choice. And I remember what it felt like when I did physically go past it. And when I do physically go past it, I feel better. So then when I'm confronted with that situation, I can actually deal with it in that moment. I can just sit there and accept it. And I can move past it. I can do something about it if there is something needed to be done. So I would highly recommend that training, exercise, proper physical exercise is one of the best ways to deal with trauma, to deal with any trauma. Now, please find a mentor or a guide, someone to guide you through that. Find coaches. Because their job and their responsibility to you is to make sure you're safe, you're moving well, and then you can push the boundaries. If you are reaching out looking for a coach, please send me a message. I've got contacts all over the world, especially because of my number one Strong Fit tribe. They're amazing, and our biggest premise is dealing with humans, the entire human, and trauma being a big part of humans. So if you need to have a little bit of guidance and you're anywhere in the world, please send me a message. I'm happy to guide you or connect you to the right people. And if you have any questions in regards to further understanding training and human movement so that you can work with trauma, work with your own trauma, reach out. I'm happy to go into a little bit more depth, but understand something. We can be very passive and we can talk about it, or we can be active and actually action it and deal with it. You cannot namaste the bear. One day that bear is coming and you're going to have to chase it down. You're going to have to fight. Some epic words from my mentor, Julian. So thanks for listening, guys, and please reach out, start moving. Exercise is key to healing any and all trauma.